my arch nemesis, powdery mildew. Hey guys, I've got a powdery mildew problem. You can see on some of these leaves that there's just like, it looks like there's been flour dusted on them. Some are worse than others. And I have been trying to keep this at bay, but unfortunately some of my vines have been dying due to the disease. So I'm gonna have to cut a lot of this back and see if I can get it under control. Just a couple of weeks ago, I completely ripped out my zucchini because it was all dying. In order to remove all the dead and contaminated leaves, I would have had to have completely pulled them up, which is what I did. So what I've got today, I'm gonna trim all of this stuff back. Then I also have a fungicide here that I'm gonna spray on the remaining leaves. I've been finding that it's not 100% efficient, and maybe that's because I'm not cutting back enough, but we'll see how it goes. I'm doing this about once a week. My squash is still growing on the vines that stay alive. I've been able to harvest 3 full grown squashes so far, but I have a feeling that it ought to have produced way more. So let's see how this goes. Alright, I got a lot of the dead growth cleared out, all of the infected leaves, and you can see I turned out quite a bit. It turns out there had been a lot of vines that were growing back behind the compost bin, so I got those cleared out. They were pretty infected. This branch over here has a good gourd on it, so I'm going to try to keep that clean. This thicket here was pretty dense, and so that was a breeding ground. So next I'm going to apply the fungicide all over the branches and see if that'll keep it at bay for another week. So I've been keeping eye on my butternut squash for powdery mildew, and it looks like I got a couple of leaves that might have gotten it back again. So I think this weekend I will try to cut off a couple of more of those infected leaves and spray down the other leaves again. Here's a couple more. But overall it looks much better than it did last weekend. A lot of new growth, so I'm going to keep using my fungicide and see if it helps me. Last night I found traces of what I think is powdery mildew on my cucumber plant here. Little hard to see it at this point, but I want to try to catch it early. There's a couple of dots of white fungus here. That looks like bird poop, but come around on this side. That leaf definitely has it. So I'm going to cut those infected leaves off, try to clear out some growth here, and spray it with my handy dandy fungicide. So I'm using Garden Safe Fungicide 3. It seems to help, but I have to be diligent about using it. So I pruned off some infected leaves. Actually turned out to be quite a bit more than I was expecting. What had happened is that the cucumber just started bunching up underneath the cage here, and all of those leaves were just creating this humid environment and just setting up breeding ground for the powdery mildew. So unbunched it, kind of stretched out some of the vines here. Actually found another cucumber, so that was cool. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this down and see if that'll keep it from taking over the plant. So I just ran out of my fungicide, and since I want to go ahead and treat the powdery mildew on my butternut squash too, I'm going to do a at-home mixture. Just a squirt bottle of water, some baking soda, and some Dawn dish soap. I'm just going to take a couple drops of this and then get half a teaspoon about baking soda. And what this is supposed to do is help change the pH of the fungus and destroy the breeding ground for it. So give that a little shake. Well, let's go out to the garden.